Hi, I'm Dr Hayley Dickinson, a research scientist, and I'm proudly a part of the endota wellbeing conversation. I'm a reproductive physiologist with expertise in stress and nutrition. But nowadays I tend to spend more time examining what we're learning in the science and comparing that with what we experience in our bodies and in our lives. In this conversation, we explore how physical touch influences the nervous system, emotional regulation and even pain perception. We'll discuss the science behind human connection and why nurturing touch can have measurable effects on the brain and body. So in our skin, we have different fibres that send different types of messages to the brain. For a really long time, we thought that we only had 3 types of fibres, and these would send messages about pressure and vibration, so we would know where we were being touched. They would send messages about temperature, so that we would know whether we were warm or cold. And we also have pain fibres, and so these sense whether we're experiencing extremes in temperature, sharp sensations, or they respond to our internal chemistry. If the body's integrity is under threat, these fibres are activated. But only in the 1990s did we discover that we had a 4th type of fibre. And this is the one that's really important for our ability to detect that nurturing physical touch. So these are called C-tactile afferents, and you don't need to remember the name, but these respond to gentle, slow, rhythmic touch. The sort of touch that you might provide someone if you were concerned for them. You know, a gentle pat on the arm, a gentle, slow rub. So what happens when we receive that sort of touch? Those messages travel via the nervous system, via the spinal cord to the brain, and they activate parts of our brain that are really important in our sensing of our internal environment. So they allow us to sense what's happening on the surface, but also what's happening within us, what's happening internally. And so our brain is this extraordinary organ that takes in so much information, but puts together a fairly predictable model of what we might expect in any given moment. And so what's really important about these C-tactile afferents, these slow rhythmic touch fibres, is that they allow our body to start to pay attention to what's happening internally, because they can shift us from a more externally focused sympathetic nervous response to a more parasympathetic, a more slow, rest and present nervous system response. After we might experience that nurturing physical touch, we might tend to feel a sense of relief. I certainly know when I'm receiving that sort of a touch, whether it's in a hug, whether it's a pat on the arm, you just feel better. Lots of us live our lives in sympathetic dominance. So we're on alert, we're on the go, we've got things to do, places to be, and we're constantly activated. What we really want and what this physical nurturing touch can do is bring us into a period of rest. So bring us into more of our parasympathetic dominant autonomic nervous system. And so this is associated with slower, deeper breathing, a lowering of our heart rate. We might notice that we have a softening of our muscles. And so these are essential physiological shifts that allow our body to then focus its energy on other things. The parasympathetic nervous system is described as our rest, digest, and I like to add reproduce nervous system. And it's only when we take these moments to rest that our body can apply resources to these other critical parts of our physiology and our health and well-being. Human touch is everything. We know that touch and connection is foundational to our ability to establish safe, reciprocal relationships. It feels so good when you receive meaningful human touch. There are some really important systems that happen in our body when we do receive that nurturing physical touch, and one of those pathways that can be activated is oxytocin. This is this extraordinary hormone that gets released from our hypothalamus. And you might have heard of oxytocin. It tends to be described as the love or the bonding hormone, this calm and connection hormone. But when we really start to dive deep into what's happening with oxytocin, it actually just makes us more sensitive to social interaction. So it is as equally powerful in bonding us with those that we are close with. And so if we receive that safe, physical, nurturing touch, we will feel a bond with them. But equally, if someone that we are bonded with is under threat, that same hormone will have us become very defensive and protective of that relationship. So it really just enhances our capacity for interaction and relationship with those that we are in community, in society with. One of the other really extraordinary things about connection and touch is that it can influence our pain pathways. And so these pathways are really closely aligned with our pleasure and reward pathways in the brain. And so when we're relaxed, when we enter into that parasympathetic nervous system, we can have endorphins released. And so these are produced by our body as our natural opioids. So they help to mitigate and release and diminish the sensation of pain, giving us that feeling of just feeling fantastic, that real well-being. There's so much happening in the brain that is really building a potent, powerful, beautiful story that allows us to really feel that connection and that well-being. One of the most important ways that we can bring the power of human touch into our lives is to really slow it down. I think so many of us spend so much of our life busy that even when we're in those moments with our loved ones where we're wanting to connect, or even just with ourselves, we can sort of rush through moments where we might be able to really bring some of that calm and connection just into our day-to-day lives. Those of you that know me well, I'm not a big skincare person, but I do apply moisturiser in the morning. And so that's a really beautiful opportunity to really just be present with yourself and your face in that moment. So really careful touch. It's not vigorous. It's not quickly get this absorbed so I can get on with my day. It's really being present, feeling the areas of your face, feeling the cheeks, feeling the jaw, because these are some of the areas in particular where we might hold that tension. So if we can use these moments to say, I'm here, I see you, I feel you, it's okay to let that go, we can really start to create that magic for ourselves just in those really simple moments. With others in our life, we can just apply that same kind of approach, a gentle touch. There's some really beautiful science that shows that when someone is with someone else who's providing a gentle touch, we experience their emotions in a warmer way. So a smiling face is read more happy if there's also some touch involved. There's a lot of things that we're taking in at any given moment to really help tell us that story about that nurturing touch. Understanding how the body works helps us care for it more intentionally. To learn more from the Endota Wellbeing Conversation and explore simple ways to support your health and longevity, visit endota.com.